What's up, guys? Today we're gonna be going over my biggest complaint and issue with the episodic format and episodes and acts in Destiny 2 currently. And this is gonna be like my biggest issue. There's all kinds of issues that you guys probably have, and if you want to leave them in comments, go ahead. And I'm in no way dismissing those other issues. This is just the one that is really hampering my experience quite a bit, and that's gonna be around loot in these episodes, mostly around Act 1 and Act 2. So right now, in both episodes, Act 1 added 6 new weapons plus 2 reprised weapons. Then when Act 2 came out, it added 4 new weapons and 1 reprised. So the first act we get 8, Act 2 we get 3. But the main issue is the weapon pools is shared between the acts for any of the activities in the episode. So in Act 1 we have a pool of 8 weapons, then in Act 2 it goes up to 11, and it's shared between both activities. And what this does is it greatly punishes people that actively play Act 1. So for example, me, I grinded Act 1 this episode, had all of the 6 weapons with the rolls I kind of wanted on them. And when Act 2 comes out, I only need the 2 new weapons and the 1 reprised. But to be able to get to those, I have to now fight through an even larger weapon pool to try to get them. So in Act 1, where I'm farming 8 weapons, I need all 8. But now in Act 2, I only need 3 of the 11, making it much harder and more tedious to actually get what I want. When I do Constance of Elders and I get all my drops, which is like 20 something over the entire run, I mean, I get like 10 hand cannons per run, and I absolutely don't need 10 hand cannons. I already farmed the hand cannon in Act 1. So like I said, this greatly punishes you for actively playing Act 1 and Act 2, and rewards you for skipping out on Act 1 completely and just waiting for Act 2 to actually play the game. Which is a similar issue I've had with the seasonal model in the past, where time gating, focusing, and things like that resulted in you just waiting until you got all the unlocks to actually farm the loot. So it's kind of the same issue I've always had, just in a slightly different version now, of where the game is actively promoting you just to wait to play, and punishes you for playing when the game actually comes out. And I feel like the first thing most people are going to instantly say is, oh, just bring crafting back, right? That's the problem. No, that is not what I'm talking about at all in this video. Last episode, when there was still crafting in the game, it was the same issue. In Act 1, I farmed all 6 of the weapons and had them all 5 out of 5 unlocked for crafting. Then when Act 2 came out, I only needed the 2 new weapons, but once again, it was a shared pool. And while actively farming for the 2 new patterns for the 2 new weapons, I was fighting through all of the old 6 weapons that I could already craft. So what are some of the things they could do to try to fix this issue? First, you could just make it 2 separate weapon pools for the weapons for the 2 different activities. Instead of being 8 and 3, you can make it more like 5 and 6 and split them up more evenly. Maybe bring out 6 weapons for Act 1, 5 for Act 2, and only the Act 1 activity drops the first 6, and only the Act 2 activity drops the last 5. And that way you can actually target farm what you want. If you only want the Act 2 weapons, that activity only gave you the Act 2 weapons. Or what I would think would make more sense would be introducing an active attunement system or focusing system, whatever you want to call it, kind of like the original Onslaught. Now, they want it to be more hands-on than just simply clicking attune this weapon like it was in the original Onslaught, and they want to make it more like tonics. That's fine, but make the tonics actually do something, and make the tonics, instead of where they're currently like, if you do one of the ones that focus for a certain weapon, right now it's just like a chance upon completion of activities or upon kills dropping that weapon. Make it actually attune your drops in the activity. So if you popped a Tomb of Elders tonic for the new shotgun, it should attune your drops in Tomb of Elders to be a way higher chance of dropping a shotgun than what it does currently. And that's how you can make like the tonic system more of a true focusing system at the same time. And I think that would just be a lot better and would fix the shared loot pool problem, and kind of allow you to narrow it down to what you actually want. You can make tonics that are like groups of weapons too. Let's say you want just Act 2 weapons. Maybe there's an Act 2 attunement where it raises the drop chance of all the Act 2 weapons, so you can kind of farm all of them a little bit more aggressively. There's just so many things they could do with these systems to make it actually feel good and rewarding. And there's definitely a fine line when farming random rolled weapons in Destiny 2 of how big the pool is, where it goes from too easy to just about right to too hard. And that's roughly like 6-ish weapons or 6-ish items in the drop pool. So if you look at dungeons are probably the best example. for farming random world loot. Each encounter has 3 weapons, 3 armor pieces, and the final boss has everything. But the first 2 encounters, where there's 3 and 3, so 6 total, that's probably the line of where it feels alright to farm random world loot, as long as you know the random rolls are truly random. That's a different story. But once you get more than 6 drops in a loot pool, it becomes a lot harder and frustrating to farm. And with these season activities, we're way past that with 11 weapons and the entire armor set. So obviously way past that line in my opinion. And that's where we need that attunement system to really narrow it down and make it feel actually rewarding. Another thing could just be the fact that maybe we don't need 2 activities per episode. And don't get me wrong, I am not advocating for less content. What I mean is maybe 1 activity that expands each act. So for example, act 1 could have been Tomb of Elders, exactly how it is currently. Then in act 2 opens up like 3 or 4 new paths with 3 or 4 new rooms, all new encounter design, challenges, modifiers, all that stuff, and expand on the current activity, add in the new weapons, and it'd feel a little bit better. And why I'm saying this is because with 2 activities in a season that share the same loot pool, you're only going to ever play one of them, which is generally going to be the funner one, the faster one, or the one with more loot, which clearly right now is Tomb of Elders for all 3 categories. And that is why it comes out in Act 2, not Act 1, because if they reverse the order of the activities with the same loot pool, you would just never play Onslaught if it came out in Act 2, because it's not as fun, it's slower, and doesn't give you as much loot. So therefore, that forces them to put the funner, the faster, and the better activity second. That way you have to be forced to play the worst one for a full act before the new one comes out. Because like I said, if they swap the order, no one would be loading up Onslaught right now unless they just threw a bunch of loot at it and kind of introduced power creep in terms of loot drops. You just wouldn't play Onslaught. So with that being said, do we really need 2 activities with the same loot pool each episode? Probably not. Just make 1 great activity that gets refreshed and added onto in the second act. And yeah, I think that is basically my entire issue, argument, and what I think that could be done to make it less of an issue. And I'm not sure how much this feedback would be relevant or if it will even be acted upon. There's only 1 more episode left. There's probably not enough time to greatly make changes to that. But like I said, I think a lot of this feedback is kind of similar to even the old seasonal model in some ways. So even though they're going a different direction in the future, I feel like there's things from this video that they could definitely take away and try to implement, or make sure they're not acting upon similar issues that are being shown currently. Anyways, let me know what you think about this issue down below, or your biggest issue on the episodic format. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.